Hi everybody, I think we're live. Hi, I'm Rita Kumbu.
I'm Tanya Bitcon.
I'm Shalina Barbero.
And I'm Elizabeth Alfaro.
And I'm Brittany Barber.
New 1 week fantasy football league at FanDuel.com. With FanDuel, there's no season-long commitment. FanDuel, playing 1 week fantasy football league.
What's up?
Doing it again.
What happened?
It's doing it again. I don't know what the problem is.
I
I
can't
don't
hear.
hear anything.
Go to FanDuel.com.
So I keep echoing. Can you guys hear anything happening?
No.
Nothing? Okay, good. Because I hear myself echoing. That was the issue I was having.
It might
Alright.
be because the mics are picking up on your sound and feeding it back.
Oh. Okay, didn't do that last time. Please don't do it again. Okay. Alright, now I'm just gonna go straight to the presentation. Cultural dimensions. Before we got caught up with technical issues before, we were going to look at our pictures and just imagine that we walked into a group and these are members of our group. By just looking at that, these members of this group, what do we see and what do we think about them? What do we deduct from just looking at them?
Do you want to bring up the picture again?
Oh, you don't see it?
No.
No.
Great. Mr. Kumbu, great. How about now?
Yes.
Fabulous.
Okay.
So if you don't understand a question I asked, you could just look underneath. I left little notes just because I know sometimes you might not be able to understand what I'm saying clearly. Anything, anybody?
Oh.
Oh, this isn't rhetorical?
Yeah.
I see a lot of different races.
Yeah. I would assume the guy at the bottom is like a boss or something. He looks like he's wearing a boss suit.
Right. And then somebody said they see different races, right?
I see different races, different cultures.
Different styles, too.
Yeah. All right, awesome. So we're going to go with the different races and bosses and things like that. And the culture was a big part. Like I purposely picked people from different that will represent different continents. Maybe this represents Asia, this person Middle East, this two are Middle Eastern. This is just a cute Middle Eastern guy, so I had to throw that in. And then this is African. It's a little blurred, but if we know Jiman Honsun, like I was like, oh, Jiman Honsun, that's a good person to represent Africa here. And then this guy just represent a European guy in general. And these are all people that are part of a group, of a small group. So when we talked about culture, what do we mean? Culture in our textbooks is a system of beliefs, values, and symbols shared by an identifiable group of people. The purpose of all of this is to help us understand and work with individuals with different cultural dimensions in any small group that we might find ourselves in. Like these people coming together in this group should be able to like work together and understand each other's cultural dimension, and just cultural dimension in the sense like what are this person's beliefs, values, what represents this person, and things like that. In the above pictures, the individual represent groups of people with different cultural dimensions. For them to work together and successfully complete their task, it is important to understand what every team member's cultural dimension is. According to chapter 6 of our text, there are 3 important cultural dimensions. Individualistic, which is a culture that values individual needs and goals more than group needs and goals. Adam Kay and Dylan, that's our textbook. Collectivism, which is a culture that values group needs, goals, more than individual needs and goals. Power distance, this is whether a culture maximizes or minimizes stature and power differences. And then context, we have low and high context. Low context cultures is a culture in which the words used convey more meaning than the situation or context. And a high context culture is a culture in which features of the situation or context convey more meaning than the words people use. All of this is found definitions from our book by Adam K. and Gallens J.Z. G.J. I can speak, people. With the help of the Houghton Center website, I was able to compare what cultural dimensions each individual from this picture above is most likely to have. Like we just looked at them and then we decided what we saw. We saw that there were different cultures. And when people have different cultures, it means they probably think differently, they do things differently, just as our definition says, different belief systems, different values, different ways of doing things. So I was curious and I wanted to see what other people say. And I found this great website. You plug it in and it gives you a certain area, somebody from this area, what kind of dimensions do they usually have. And I plugged in China, which represents probably Asia, and then Sub-Saharan Africa, and I plugged in Ghana. And for Europe or the United States, I plugged in France. Can you guys see this?
Barely.
Barely?
I see the picture, but I can't tell what the bars represent.
Once it stops moving, I can see it well.
Now that it stopped moving, can you see it better or no?
I
I
can.
just can't read the words.
Okay. So I'm sorry, it's hard to see, but what the bars represent is the different dimensions. And according to the Houghton Center, they have more dimensions than we do, than we have in our books. They have the power distance, they have individualism, they have masculinity, they have uncertainty and avoidance, they have pragmatism, and then they have indulgence. But we're going to focus on the ones that we're talking about in our book. So for China, it shows that they have 80% in power distance. China and Ghana both have 80% in power distance. What does this mean? Power distance means whether a culture maximizes or minimizes stature and power differences, according to our text. So this high score simply means that the people accept hierarchical order in which everybody has a place and which needs no further justification. So you know your place and you don't have to justify it. And then hierarchy in an organization, say these people were part of an organization, the hierarchy in this organization is seen as reflecting inherent inequalities. Centralization is popular, and subordinates expect to be told what to do. And the ideal boss is a benevolent autocrat. Did that make sense to any of you guys?
I think so.
So it's just in a sense that you have a boss. Let me stop this. I'm like stopping it because can you guys see me?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so you have your boss. You're in a group. Say you're a group of 5, 10, and you have your boss because you know that this is the leader. Everything the leader says goes. So you don't feel like you're equal. It's very common that you're not equal. I don't go about feeling like I'm the same with my boss. So it's not a democracy. It's an autocracy. So the boss speaks, it goes. The boss hands you something, you kiss his feet and you say thank you. So it's more an autocratic system. And these countries, like if you're working with people from those regions, they would typically think like that. Or you're working with somebody and you're wondering, why is it that they're behaving like they're better than I am? It's not necessarily because they think they're better than you are. It's simply because they come from a culture where the boss has final say in everything.
The best service and
Let's go back and keep going.
service, unbeatable price, best money.
Okay, another thing that I noticed with power distance cultures is, for me, like when I growing up in a power distance culture, one thing that I remember as a child is the fact that you do not look at your boss in the eyes. I have to get out of this so that we can at least just talk about it a little more. You don't look at your boss in the eyes. Like I don't like if my mom were talking to me, I would not be staring at my mom in the eyes. That is disrespectful. I'm not respecting authority. I don't know. It's not a humbling position. Like it's not allowed. It's not acceptable. So even though I have tried to adapt in different cultures, there are times that when I'm talking to somebody, I tend not to look at them in the eyes. And in this culture, if you don't look at somebody in the eye, mostly they say you're hiding something, right? That's the consideration. It's more like, what are you hiding? Why are you not looking? Or you're lying. Why are you not looking at me while I'm talking to you? You're lying. So, but in different cultures, it's different because it's like, no, you don't look at them in the eye because that's a sign of respect. Another thing that I observed while looking at the map at this scale was pragmatism. I don't think you guys see it, but if you do, it says 87. China scores really high on pragmatism. And what is pragmatism? This dimension describes how every society has to maintain some links with its own past while dealing with the challenges of the present and the future. And societies prioritizes these two external goals differently. In societies with a pragmatic orientation, people believe that truth depends very much on situation, context, and time, according to the Huffington Center. Let me read it again. I found it interesting. Maybe if I read it again, you guys could probably discuss it with me a little bit. So it says, not the whole thing, but just this part that it says, in societies with pragmatic orientation, people believe that truth depends very much on situation, context, and time. Yeah. Do you guys see anything, maybe like a flaw in something like this, or how this could be advantageous or disadvantageous at all? If not, my only thing with this particular situation is, if truth depends on the situation and time, then truth is conditional. And sometimes it's not always that truth is conditional. It's not always that if I'm talking, say for instance, we're in a meeting and the boss walks in. Now am I supposed to just tell things as it is, or am I supposed to change my word and flatter you or say something to flatter the boss? Or I find it a little challenging, but it helps me to understand where these people that are pragmatic or people that believe like that are coming from. That way, when I'm in a room with people, I can tell, I will be able to know if they're saying this just because there are other people in the room that they need to impress, or they're saying this just because they don't want to hurt my feelings and cause some shame, different things like that. So it's like knowing about pragmatism helps you understand why somebody will say what they say and try to deduce from what they're saying if they're just being nice or they actually mean what they say. And you'll see also as we keep going that it's not every culture that is pragmatic, that would do things based on the context, the situation, or the time. Another thing that I taught was from our textbook, as I was working on chapter 9 and reading chapter 9, I also realized that knowing this about the person's belief system, just knowing their culture, knowing their belief system, knowing different things about them will help you in problem solving, in conflict, in negotiating conflicts or trying to amend problems in a group. But if you don't understand anything about the person's culture, you don't understand anything about where the person comes from, it's hard for you to be able to actually solve some problems or be able to resolve conflicts. So in our textbooks, we have steps of different steps where we could use in resolving conflicts. And if I don't know your belief, I will not know how to use this thing. So the steps to resolve conflicts are you separate the people from the problem, you focus on the interest and not the position, you invent new options for mutual gain, and you insist on using objective criteria when it comes to these negotiations or when it comes to solving problems. You use these things, and then, but you also know that sometimes they might not work because people might not be as honest as you would like them to be. So usually I would say in a case of pragmatism, I would go with using a very, very objective criteria, because I don't see any other way how you could deal with somebody who is maybe not being completely honest or not saying something the way they're supposed to say it, simply because there's somebody else in the room, or simply because maybe the timing is just not right, or it's tough when you're doing business or you're trying to meet a deadline, you're trying to finish a project. You cannot be playing in grace. Sometimes you just need things to be done. And then I went ahead to do the same thing for the United States, Iran, and Japan, and it pretty much came up the same for not as much as other places. You see here that bless you. Power distance is not too big. Like the other places are like 80%. But when I looked at these other ones, I actually saw individualism was huge, masculinity, uncertainty, pragmatism again. For Japan, if you notice, the United States, uncertainty and avoid. United States, actually for individualism, it was huge. And in our text, we do talk about individualism. So I wanted to talk a little bit about individualism and just the United States. Individualism simply means a culture that values individual needs and goals more than group needs and group goals. In an individualistic society, people are supposed to look after themselves and their direct family only. In collective societies, people belong in groups that take care of them in exchange for loyalty. So it's more like, what am I gonna gain from doing what I'm doing? So it's like the teacher said, okay, you guys participate. I'm not saying that we're all selfish and we're going to be like, I'm not participating if I'm not getting 25 points. but we are motivated to participate because we have 25 points, right? Hello?
Right.
Oh, I'm like, am I talking to myself? Like, I'm sorry, this one was a tough one to prepare for, so I'm just sorry if it's so hard to follow. But yeah, I would not want to participate 10 audiences without a reason to do it. So I really applaud my friend Elizabeth for participating for absolutely no reason, but because she's my friend. Thank you, Elizabeth.
You're welcome. It's fun. Interesting. I'm even taking notes.
You are taking notes?
Yeah.
Oh, wow. Okay.
There will be a quiz.
Just in case, right?
No, just ask me a couple of questions, which I don't guarantee I know the answers to. All right, so we'll keep going, and then when we looked, I noticed that Iran only scored 40 for collect. Iran is considered a collective society in the comparative study. They scored 41 on individualism. The reason why they scored 41, I want to go back there so those of you that can see it right here. Can you guys see where it is?
Yeah.
Oh, good. So they only scored 41. The reason being is that you guys know the saying, it takes a village, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so they believe in that collectivism that we saw above. They believe in working together as families. People work well in families, in units. They are loyal to family members. They are loyal to groups. They are loyal to generations and generations of uncles and aunties, or somebody did good to them 10 years ago. They are loyal to that person. So they don't do things in like, oh, just for me, what do I gain? It's more like, how does it affect this group when I make this decision? Say we're in a board meeting or we're in a group with all these people, and the person is thinking, you know what, I have to go because I had promised my uncle that I was going to do this and that and that. And you're sitting there going, I'm trying to get 25 points. You can't tell me that you got to go because your uncle, you promised something to your uncles 2 months ago. So but they would consider that. So we need to be aware of what people value. Do they value the time with? Are they a collective society? Is somebody from a collective society? Are they going to value the group, or they are going to value an individual? So they're not going to put your one need over the need of the group. They're probably going to always put the group's need over your one need. So they can be good for a society. They can be mostly good for a small group. Collective people can be very good for small groups, because when they are attached to that group, they are going to be loyal to that group. They're going to make sure that whatever is done is for the benefit of the group. But if they're not very loyal, they could probably walk away and go serve another thing that they are more loyal to. And then our third dimension is the context. So one thing I was just wondering, we've all asked ourselves this question: what do you mean? What are you saying? Or say you're in a relationship and you're like, when he does this or when he does that, what does that mean? So we ask these questions. Why? Because we don't fully understand what is going on, because maybe the situation is not in red or black, or how do we say, black and white, in black and white. Like some societies are not black and white, so they say things in different contexts, and you have to weigh the context in order to see it. Let me go back up and let's look at high context and low context again, just to refresh our memory. Low context culture is a culture in which the words used convey meaning than the situation or the context. And then a high context culture is a culture in which features of the situation or context convey meaning than the words people say. Now let's see, what is the United States? Can we just try and see whether we think yes? Are we a high context or a low context society?
Probably low. In terms of we use the same words, or the words don't really depend on context that much.
Yeah. So understanding the above two dimensions helps the individual understand a little more about the context or the other people might be speaking. The US is considered as a low context culture, which is a culture in which the words used convey more meaning than the context. So if I say, I'll be there at 5, I mean I'll be there at 5. You know, like that is just a very general idea. But you guys probably understand a little bit more than that. It's more than that. It's deeper than just saying time. But it's more like if somebody's like, I'm mad at you, it means they're mad at you or something. Instead of being like, no, it's all good. Yeah, it's not all good because the way you're saying it, it's not all good. So according to our text, we are a low context society. But I have personally found that I think personally that California is a high context society, in my opinion. It's a high context culture. Because why? We have people from a lot of different places here in LA, for instance. Let's say LA for one. We have so many people from different places. And my experience has been a lot of, oh, it's all good, but it's not good. Like I have had to try to understand, this person said this, but they really don't mean it. So personally, because of all the different cultures that we have, people haven't completely adapted to the culture of the United States. So people still practice the cultures that they've come from, and a lot of them, like the Asians, like and the Native Americans, well, we don't have a lot running around, but the Asians, for instance, and I don't know, the Africans or just a bunch of people from different places, they have these different complexes, and I see a lot more of high culture in California than I would see in the Midwest. In the Midwest, I take people at what they say. Somebody from the Midwest says something to me, or somebody from New York says something to me. I was like, definitely low context. They mean what they're saying. But in California, somebody says something to me, I have to think twice. What do they really mean? That's just my opinion. So, in conclusion, because we live in the U.S., a culture that is very pluralistic in the sense that we have people from different places. Like we have the Asians, we have Africans, we have people from South America. So just different places. It's a pluralistic culture. It would be uncommon to find ourselves in a cultural diverse group. So it would not be uncommon for us to find ourselves in a culturally diverse group. Like even right now, we are already culturally diverse because I am from Africa. I don't know whether any of you are from Europe, but at least just me being from Africa has already made our group diverse. We should not take anything for granted or measure or assume anything. It is important to define your group. So when you're in your group, it is important for us to just be able to define it, be able to know what we're in for, know the people that we're going to work with. We should know if our group works better as a collective and individualistic group or as a power group. We should also know if it uses low or high context culture. Understanding these dimensions will help us, or help you, help me, figure out the best way to communicate with members of our small group. We should appreciate the differences in our group and adapt to them as much as we can. And that will be the end of this presentation.
All right. Yay.
Oi. Thank you for being kind. I don't know what I said.
No, it was good.
That was really good.
Oh, yay. And I don't know how much time I've taken up, so
Well, can I ask a question?
About right, time-wise.
Am I good time-wise?
I think so.
Okay. Who wants to go first? Can you give your name before asking question?
I'll
Okay.
ask a question. I think I know you said in your culture you usually can't look anyone in the eyes because I don't know if you said it was a form of disrespect. How do you adjust to that, being that out here in the United States, anyone as far as in, your supervisor down to like a teacher, it's best to look them in the eye, or they feel as though that it is a sign of disrespect. How do you correlate the two when you were raised a certain way in your culture, but when you come out here in the United States, it's totally different?
It is, I have to tell you, it's one of the hardest things that I've had to deal with. Like, talking to people and looking them in the eyes consistently, that's the hardest thing. And the times that I manage it, like even talking to you guys now, I'm managing it. Like I'm trying to look. But the times that you will catch me go, oh, it's hard. Like I have to say it's hard, but I've tried to keep it going in my head. Look, look, look. But I still catch myself not doing it. If I'm sick or I'm tired, it's worse because mentally I'm not very strong. So I'm just like, oh yeah, hi. I can be having a whole conversation with you and I'm over here like oh blah, 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 blah. And it's almost like, oh, she don't want to talk to me. That's not it. I probably am tired. I want to talk to you, but I'm not thinking in my head like, look at them, because it's work. At this point, looking at somebody in the eyes is more work to me than actually just having a conversation while working. I can have we love to have conversation while doing 1,000 things. Like sitting down at dinner and having a conversation is like, what? You sit down at dinner, you shut out your mouth, and the only thing we hear is your mouth chewing. You don't talk to people across the table. So, so it's hard. I have to tell you, it's hard. I'm working on it, but it's hard.
That's good.
I have a question.
Okay.
Named Alina. So when you were describing pragmatism,
Mhm.
I kind of noticed that you described it in kind of like a negative way, like a sleazy salesperson, kind of implying that someone who's pragmatic is like a liar almost. And I myself, I feel like I'm sort of more on the pragmatic side than not.
I think you're like flexible, right?
Yeah. So I was just wondering, what is that your opinion on it, or was I just reading too much into it?
I think that's a good one. That's a good one. No, it's not. It's not all bad because another thing that I learned while doing that is that the cultures like that, they're really good at saving. They're really loyal. They could be. They're not wasteful. They're not wasteful with their money. They're very goal oriented. They have really good quality. So I was like, yeah, shoot, he doesn't waste his money. Good, So it's like the good qualities of that, and it's just understanding the fact that they are the way they are, but it's not necessarily a bad thing. Like all the qualities that people have, those are belief systems that are ingrained in them. At one point or the other, those belief systems are used for good. It might come across as wrong for us, or it might come across as bad for us, but it's not necessarily bad. If we look at the heart or the interest of that particular situation, we would know, then we would know. That's why we don't focus on the people. We don't just focus on whatever is going on. We focus on the interest. What is the interest? Like, why is this person pragmatic? Like it might be pragmatic because you don't want to be wasteful with your money. So it's all good. Like the first thing we look about people, the fact that I look down, somebody could be like, oh, she's lying and she doesn't want us to see it. Until you know that I was raised not to look at people in the eyes like that, then you will never know that I don't do it because I do it because I'm not doing it because I'm hiding something, but I'm doing it because I still have some of my belief system ingrained in me.
Got it. All right.
Okay. Make sense?
I have a question.
Yeah.
Did you find any of the different qualities that you were looking at to be sort of correlated between them? Like, are most like high context societies also less or more pragmatic? Like, are there any like sort of sets that are normally together, kind of thing? Does that make sense?
Yes, the power culture. I think the power culture, the one that have the hierarchy, they had more of that. Yeah. We could also let's go back and take a quick look.
So like you said, more power. The ones that were higher power culture or something were more.
Yes. The power cultures. Am I see echoing? Well, we're gonna stick with that. That was my understanding, but I cannot. We're gonna stick with the fact that that was my understanding from that the power. Do you guys see me now?
Yeah.
Okay. Let's go. Let's go. I'm having technical issues again.
Well, I think we're almost done.
Yeah, I think you're almost done.
So I said yes to power culture and pragmatism. They seem to be a little bit more of those two going together. I wanted to go back and look again and just confirm, but I can totally see that those two going together just because of the Asian culture. They were more pragmatic, but they were also a power culture.
Okay.
Elizabeth, do you have any question, or you good?
No, I was just gonna add to the, how you were talking about how like the way certain cultures speak and have, communicate. I can relate to that, but also different areas, like in California, different like now that you have Northern California, Central, and Southern California. When I lived up north, there's like different words that they use up there. So when I moved down here, I was still using it like hella, you hear the hella cool, that's hecka cool. I used to say those words a lot. And then all of a sudden, when I moved over here, I started hearing whack. But it was like, for me, it was like positive, something, my sorority sisters would be like, oh, no, that's whack, and that's whack. So I started saying whack. Hey, that's whack, but I was referring to something cool. I thought that meant cool. And so they would make fun of me. So I'm like, no, that's not what it means. It means that it's, it sucks. It's not good. Like, really, all this time I've been thinking, whack means, it's cool. So it just depends also the tone of the voice of whatever they're saying. I thought that was kind of interesting, too. How, like, not only, like, it's not, because we're the same culture. I was born here. We have like our traditions because of Mexican traditions that we still, kind of follow. But yeah, just the words. It was funny. I just wanted to add that.
Yeah, sweet. Yeah, and that's just the adaptation, because the one big thing about all of this is just learning and adapting. Like learning and adapting to your group members. So it's like we all have to learn and adapt if we really want to be successful in our small groups.
Yeah.
All right, I'm going to end our session. Thank you, ladies. The next one is in 30 minutes. So hopefully you all can join. I will not be doing a lot of talking. I'm looking forward to that one. I like that one better than this one.
Okay.
So I'm stopping now, and then we can meet again at 7 if you guys are free.
Okay.
Okay. Cool.